Hello YouTube and welcome to Trackday. So, first race weekend, Donington Park with Trackday trophy. What can I say? I screwed up with the GoPros. I'd had lots of trouble with the GoPros plugged into power and overheating and shutting off. So I decided I was just going to run them on battery power, and after qualifying I forgot to put them on charge, so when I was strapped into the car ready for the race, they were completely dead. So I've got no footage like you're seeing right now of the actual race. I've only got the camera that was looking at me during the race, and that cocked up on the mic input, so there's no audio for that. So I'm going to do my best to try and explain and remember what happened in the race using just the timing sheets and what little bit of video and action you can see out of the driver's side window. But what you're looking at right now is my qualifying. Took a bit of getting used to, but once I kind of got into the swing of things, I felt quite comfortable in the car and really enjoyed not losing the momentum like you tend to do on a track day. So if you're only allowed to overtake people on the straights and there's someone ahead of you, you often have to brake quite a lot more for a corner, whereas on a test day you can overtake someone as you're running around that corner. So this is towards the end of the session. I'm gradually getting quicker and quicker in the car, bearing in mind that this car had only actually spent an hour on the track the week before at Donington, before the engine started to get upset, and I've not had a chance to do any suspension setup or any tuning, so this is literally what I guessed at. Best lap this is running down into Redgate. Redgate's one of the trickiest corners to get right, at least I found. Craner curves, really enjoy that, and then old hairpin, basically turn in earlier than you think and just get on the gas as soon as you can in the dry. Love this section of the track. It flows really nicely in a car with this sort of power because you're pretty much flat all the way through. A little bit of oversteer here as I got a little put off by the Mini in front that seemed to be going a lot slower through that corner than I was expecting. And then again through Coppice, a few times I was kind of caught off guard. You get used to knowing what gears that you need through what corners, but see, if you catch someone you're having to slow down a lot more, so there's a couple of times where I'm having to change down to third where I normally would have carried fourth, and then into the final chicane here, and again hard on the power. In Trackday Trophy you don't get a green flag or formation lap, you just get brought straight from the assembly area onto the grid into the positions that you've qualified in, and when the lights go out it's time to go. I'm starting 19th overall out of 38, that's 4th in class, and directly ahead of me is the number 3 MX5 which qualified 3rd in class. He was 0.2 of a second quicker than me in qualifying, and 3 rows ahead is the number 17 MX5 which was 1.5 seconds quicker than me in qualifying. So my aim really is to try and watch these guys, see where they go and try and follow them and hang on to their coattails really. The start itself was kind of strange. I'd been warned that when the lights go out, you and everyone else around you doesn't quite believe that the lights have gone out, and yeah, that did happen. There was what felt like a second delay between me reacting and everyone else reacting. As it was, I didn't do too badly off the start. Managed to move up into 3rd in class, passing the number 25 Fiesta pretty early on, because I think he got caught behind the car ahead who had stalled, and I managed to get round. So at this point I'm thinking, great, we've made it round the first corner. That's the point where most of the danger happens. we're okay from here. And then it starts to rain. Thinking, okay, right, keep your cool, you can do this. So the wipers are on. I'm thinking, right, the tyres are cold, they're the semi-slicks, so they're not really made for very wet conditions, and the rain starts to get heavier. Thinking, okay, all right. So I'm just about hanging on with the lead pack, and there's a pack behind me, but not right behind me. So I'm managing to sort of move away and hang on to the back of the cars ahead, but at this point I'm just thinking, right, just keep it on the tarmac, because going slightly slower but staying on the black stuff is a lot quicker than maybe lapping a second a lap quicker but ending up on the grass and losing a huge amount of time. So generally by this point I'm thinking, okay, the car doesn't feel too bad really. The track's not awful, but as we go on it starts to get worse and worse as the rain comes down heavier. It never becomes torrential, so there's no standing water, but it's enough that the dry line becomes very greasy. So as the race goes on, there's a Class B car that I've been behind for quite a while, and I'm thinking, I'm a bit quicker than him at this point, so I'm going to try and make a move. So as we follow around the lap, we're heading down towards Craner Curves, and I'm closing in. As we come round Craner, getting closer, heading through the braking point to Old Hairpin, so I go down to third gear, turn. As we go up, I'm starting to get a decent exit out of the corner compared to him, and then just as we come round to Starkey's Bridge, I slip over onto the dry line, which is quite greasy, pushes me onto the grass, and then the number 39 MR2 passes me, which drops me down to 4th in class, but I managed to get past the Class B car. Then you can see by this point the amount that I'm soaring at the steering wheel as you cross over the dry line on corner exit, having lots of moments like this as I'm trying to figure out where the grip is on this particular circuit when it's damp. So I'm building with confidence now. Every single time you have a little bit of moment and a little bit of a loss of traction as you cross over that dry line on corner exit. You're learning more information from the car, and then that just makes you feel more comfortable because you know when it's going to break away and it's not unpredictable. It doesn't seem to snap away from you. I've always got a chance to try and correct these little slides that are happening. So by this point there's a couple of higher class cars behind me, and then a bit of a distance back we've got the rest of the guys in my class that I'm currently ahead of. So I'm feeling quite happy here. I'm coming down into Craner, and then I'm seeing that there's a car pretty close behind me. So I think, right, I've got to concentrate, got to get a good exit coming through the Old Hairpin, and I just get onto the dry line, get on the power, have a spin, round I come. So then immediately through comes the 58 Saxo, who's in class, a couple of Class B and Class C cars, the 129 BMW, the 23 Fiesta, and the 77 MX5, who are all in my class, which drops me down to 9th in class out of 12 starters. I don't know this at the time, I just see a whole host of cars coming through, and I'm thinking, oh Christ, I'm probably running dead last now. What have I done? And it's just about mentally trying to recompose yourself, trying to let that not knock your confidence and get back on the lap times that I was doing before, because whilst they were a chunk away from what the leaders were doing, they were good enough to keep me in the position that I was in, and at that point I'd have been very, very happy to finish the race in the 4th that I was running at that time. I'm just thinking, there's no way that that's going to happen. So on that same lap I'm coming through and have a bit of a cock-up going through the Robert chicane, and that allows the 124 MG to come past me and drops me down to 10th in class, all while I was trying to pass the 77 MX5 who'd just come past me earlier. So at this point I really need to reset and recompose myself. I'm making too many mistakes, trying to push too hard to get past people too soon, and we're about 9 minutes into the race now, and The rain's still coming down, but I think that I'm starting to get the grips with the circuit. I'm starting to figure out where the grip is, where the wet racing line is. Obviously in these conditions you're still going to get some bits of oversteer as you come through, but it's just about controlling those and trying to keep the car on the black stuff as you go. I've been following quite closely behind the 77 for a couple of laps now, and I know I need to get a decent exit out of the corner and out drag him on the straight. So as we come out of Coppice, I put the power down as soon as I can. Just keep cool, get the manoeuvre done, tuck back in, try and take the best line as I can through the chicane, prevent him from coming past me again. That promotes me to 8th in class. So I'm now behind the 129 BMW, having made my way past the 77 MX5, and I'm thinking, right, stay on his tail and try and figure out a way to get past him without letting the 77 past again. At 14 minutes into the race, we're starting to approach the first of the back markers now, and this is where my inexperience gets the better of me, because what an experienced driver would do is they would know instinctively at what point they're going to pass this car on the road. What I'm doing is just going as fast as I can, catching him at the wrong moment, losing a load of momentum, and you can see me looking over to my left here, as losing that momentum up the hill allows the 77 to pass me on the inside, which drops me down into 9th in class. So I've been following the 77 for a couple of laps now, and as we head into the chicane, I know that in a straight line I'm a lot quicker than he is, but he's a lot more confident through the corners, and he makes me work for this overtake. So I have to move over to the right to pass him coming down the straight, and that puts me offline going into turn 1, which means I have to brake a lot more, take a much tighter line, and because I'm on a tighter line, I haven't thought about moving down to 3rd gear, which means he's got enough momentum to drag straight past me again and slot back in. So that's me behind him for another few laps now. So on the same lap I'm thinking I've got to get past this guy as soon as possible because I'm losing a load of time on the straights being stuck behind him. So I drop back a little bit, get a really good exit through the chicane, and this time manage to get the overtake done well before we get to the first corner, which means I can be on the proper line and carry as much speed as I can through turn 1, which doesn't give him the chance to come past again. So by this point I'm getting into the groove with the car really. I haven't made any silly mistakes for quite a while. The next cars in class are a bit of a way up the road, so there's no real danger of doing anything stupid trying to catch them. There's no one right behind me breathing down my neck, so we decide to push the pit towards the end of the window, and we come in at 24 minutes. So we've got a pit before the 30-minute mark, so we decided to bring it in there without the pressure of being too close to the end of the window. As it happens, the 23 Fiesta and the 124 MG, who are in the 2 places ahead of me, also pit on the same lap, so they're ahead of me in the pit lane here. And then behind me you'll see the gap, a flash of yellow as the 77 MX5 comes by. So I built a pretty healthy gap by this point in the race. So in Trackday Trophy, it's a timed pit stop from entry to exit. Has to be a minimum of 2 minutes in order to stop people rushing around and falling over each other and running each over, doing driver swaps. It allows people to share a car and essentially not get penalised for having to do a driver swap. So I basically stay in the car so as not to get all upset with undoing the belts and getting them back on again in the right place. Have a massive drink through a straw there and just chill out while the team goes around, checks the tyre pressures, confirms that everything looks okay, and I've got Tom outside on the stopwatch. We've worked out roughly how long I need to remain stationary for, and added that on to how long it takes to drive down the pit lane to make sure that we're not over that 2 minutes, but we're as close as we can get. As it happens, I think we end up about 4 seconds too long. So I'm just sitting here waiting to be released, looking at the 77 ahead, thinking, I've got to get out ahead of him. And he came in considerably after me, but I'll make sure I'm not stuck behind him again. So Tom's giving me a bit of a countdown. I'm just getting myself back in the zone again, doing some breathing, get it into gear, get ready. And Tom's also making sure that he releases me safely. And to my severe displeasure, the 77 MX5 is released in front of me, and I end up coming out of the pits right behind him. I'm thinking, what has happened here? Have we completely cocked up this pit stop and spent far too long in there, or has he spent too little time in there? I think, right, there isn't time to worry about that now. I've got to focus on overtaking him on the road, because otherwise I'm going to get stuck behind him for the rest of the race. The 124 MG has a bit of an issue in the pits and ends up spending ages in there, and the number 23 Fiesta retires at about this point. So whilst I lose a place to the 77, I gain 2 places, which bumps me up to 6th in class. I don't know any of this at the time. By this point the rain's completely stopped and there's now a perfect dry racing line. I've been behind the 77 for a couple of laps now, basically trying to bide my time, and then coming through the chicane onto the start straight. Managed to pass, get the move done before turn 1. Quick check at the mirror to see if he's going to try anything crazy and dart down on the inside. No, he's not. Brilliant. In I go, and away into the distance. That promotes me to 5th in class. I'm figuring out how to lap traffic a little bit better, biding my time, making sure I hit them at the right point, whether that means lifting off a little earlier on a straight so that you can get them on the exit rather than having to brake mid-corner, and just looking as far ahead as I can and figuring out how to be as smooth as possible through the lap and lose as little time in the traffic as possible. Up ahead I can see a couple of cars in the class above. I'm not sure at this point what lap they're on, but I'm able to keep up with them, so I'm thinking, right, I've got to try and make a move on this Mini here. I'm completely unaware of this at the time, but I'm closing in on the number 58 Saxo, who's 1 place ahead of me at between 3 and 6 seconds a lap, depending on who gets caught in traffic at which time, and the 39 MR2, who's 2 places ahead of me at between 2 and 3 seconds a lap. I've had this Class C Mini ahead of me for a couple of laps, and I'm sure that by the end of the race I can probably get past them if I just try a bit harder. I'm closing in on this Class C Celica, which I don't realise has actually already lapped me in this race and has just been involved in a collision. So she's just trying to find her feet and figure out if there's any problem with the car. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm passing all these Class C cars. After everything running really smoothly for quite a few laps, I'm starting to get a little bit overconfident, and again, as I'm working my way through traffic, I make another mistake. So coming down the back straight, we've got the 1 series of Jimmy Broadbent ahead, and I pass him, and as I move back in for the chicane, I'm slightly offline, so I try and straight line it, which then throws me into the second part of the corner, and as the car bottoms out on the suspension, that throws the back end round and spins me round. Fortunately, the cars behind me are able to avoid me. They run onto the grass, and then I have to collect myself back up again, try and get myself back in the zone. That cock-up has really knocked my confidence at this point, but I'm trying to build myself back up again as quickly as I can. I've lost about 10 seconds with that spin, which now pretty much puts the chances of catching the 4th and 3rd place cars ahead out of reach. And then before you even realise, the 45 minutes is up and the checkered flag comes out. So across the line in class is the orange Fiesta first, then this red and white MX5 in second, then a decent gap till the MR2 in third, then fourth is this Saxo, and fifth me. What we didn't know at the time was that 3 of the drivers in class would end up receiving penalties for short pit stops, 2 of which with the 58 Saxo and the 39 MR2. So once their penalties were applied, it then promoted me to 3rd place. At the time of recording this, I've actually done 2 more races, and you'll be pleased to hear that my cameras worked for both of those. So the next video should be a bit more entertaining and a little bit easier for me to edit. Thanks for watching. See you next time.